Welcome, I'm Todd Robbins. September 24th. A number of sinister things happen on this day. Here's just a handful of them. Starting off in 1657, the first autopsy and coroner's jury verdict is recorded in Maryland here in the States. Well, actually the colonies at that time were not the United States until much later, more than 100 years later. On this day, and by the way, you can hear in the background the heir to the Robbins fortune, Phineas Taylor Robbins, talking to friends or people who pretend to be his friends on the phone. If you hear that little buzzing voices and stuff, that's what it is. On this day in 1683, King Louis XIV expels all Jews from French possessions in America, basically the French lands in America. Jews had to get out. I've said this before and I'll say it again. You would think that running a country would take up enough of your time and effort and focus that you wouldn't go out of your way to persecute a religious group. But I would be wrong about this. I guess it was just sport. I don't know. On this day in 1688, France declares war on Germany. I'm glad they did that and got it out of their system once and for all. See, it happened many, many times. Probably will happen again, sooner or later. On this day in 1686, the African-American slave and poet Jupiter Hammond, what a great name, Jupiter Hammond, makes his address to the Negroes of the state of New York speech advocating emancipation at a meeting of the African Society in New York. Lovely idea way before his time, unfortunately. It would be another 70 years before that, no, more than that. 80 years before that came to pass. And even then, even to this day, there's still issues, aren't there? Yes, there are. On this day, on a much nicer, darker note, in 1964, The Monsters premiered on TV. You can hear their iconic theme song right here and now. On this day in 1976, there's a revival of a show that ran on Broadway. It was successful on Broadway. I believe it was successful. Ran quite a while, I think, at the Belasco Theater, and then it moved over to the Edison Theater, which is now the Edison Ballroom. It's no longer a theater. And it ran there for almost 6,000 performances. What was the show? Oh, Calcutta. Yeah, that musical revue with naked people. What more could you want? Singing, dancing, and dangling parts of human flesh. So, 2015, there was a stampede of people during Hajj. I assume it's some sort of religious festival, holiday thing in Saudi Arabia, and there was a stampede during the symbolic stoning of the devil. It's part of this whole thing. And 717 people were killed during that stampede. I always find it just darkly ironic of people being killed during a religious celebration. The Lord or Lords work in strange ways. On this day in 1824, Truman Seymour, an American artist and brevet major general of the Union Army, is born. Civil War. What's interesting is this happened a day or two ago. There was a slew of births throughout the years, but on this day, I find this intriguing. 1824, Truman Seymour. 1827, Henry Warner Slocum, who became a major general in the Union Army, 1829, James St. Clair Morton, and who was also a brigadier general of the Union Army. 1833, Henry Allison Barnum. I have to be interesting to see if there's any relation to P.T. Barnum, who was also a major general. And all of these guys were born on this day in different years. Curious, ain't it? And Henry Slocum is kind of interesting, General Slocum, because years later they named a steamboat after a steamship after his, in honor of him here in New York City. And at the turn of the last century, that steamboat caught fire and killed almost 2,000 people of the German community. They were on a day's trip, summer picnic getaway. And it was mostly women and children because they left first, and then the men, it was a Saturday, and men who were working half a day were going to get off and take the boat. The boat was going to come back and then take them to this picnic ground up in the New England Sound area and have a lovely day. And it just turned into a complete disaster, utter horror that ended up really decimating the German community in New York. And once a very prominent group of folk in New York City, but because of this, it took them down and allowed the Irish and Italians to become much more prominent in politics and things like politics in New York, all because of the General Slocum disaster, named after this guy. I digress often, and that reminds me. Moving right along, this is the birth also of an interesting man named Hugo Schmeisser. Hugo Schmeisser, and he was an inventor and an innovator when it came to weapons, specifically the submachine gun. And because of what he did, his innovations with that weapon, it really made an impact in World War I and World War II. Who knows how many lives were lost because of the innovations that this man did. And he was born on this day in 1884. Also on this day, in 1902, the Ayatollah Khomeini, the Iranian religious leader who became the head of Iran after the revolution that happened there and created all kinds of strife for the United States and for the West. He was born on this day. For many in the West, he is the face of evil. And finally, on this day, Susan Atkins died, who was in 2009. She was a woman, she was born in 1948, and she was, as a young woman, a follower of a fellow named Charles Manson, and was responsible or involved in some point with 9 murders, including the Tate LoBianco murders that just terrorized Southern California back in 1969. She was convicted of this crime and was supposed to get the death penalty, but when that all changed, she was given life imprisonment and was, at the time of her death, the longest living female inmate in the California penal system, for whatever that's worth. So there you go, and there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did enjoy it, like the video, hit the little like button, subscribe to the channel, because some interesting things are coming down the pike here on this channel. And also hit the notification so you'll be made awares of what's going on here. And that is assuming you survive all the sinister things that'll be happening to you on this day today. And if you do survive, hope to see you back here tomorrow. And if you don't survive, you do me a favor, if you would. If you have the opportunity, as you're passing away there, if there are people there, just look at one of them and say, you have to stop doing that. You have to stop doing that. And then close your eyes and drift off. Make them guess. Always keep them guessing. Always keep them wondering. That's what I recommend, because I'm Todd Robbins. In regards to this day today and all the things that will be happening, well, good luck.